Texas A&M just pulled off the greatest recruiting class in college football history, and it looks like the boosters played a large role in that. Plus, Nick Saban and Kirby both called for increased NIL regulations in college football. All that and more on today's episode of 4th and 10. 4 college football stories in just around 10 minutes. Now, let's go for it. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to join the best college football community here on YouTube. Also, if you could drop a like on this video, I would greatly appreciate it as well. It helps the algorithm of the video and helps share it with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. Alright, let's start with Texas A&M because this is a very interesting situation. So as I mentioned, they just pulled off the greatest recruiting class in college football history. Like, no, seriously, this recruiting class they have for next year is absolutely stacked. As of right now, I saw they have 5 5-star recruits and 19 4-star recruits. They have something like 17 or 18 of the top 100 recruits in the entire country. They're essentially set at every position because if you look down the list, they pretty much have a top 3 player at every position. So what Jimbo Fisher did was remarkable, and hats off to him. However, there is some speculation that Texas A&M team boosters allegedly paid upwards of $30 million in order to get this class. Yep, that's right, $30 million went towards this recruiting class. Now, I will say this isn't 100% confirmed, this is just something that I've seen floating around the internet, which likely means it's probably not 100% true. But with that being said, I'm sure this number is fairly similar, and boosters definitely played a role in a lot of these players coming to Texas A&M. Now, there is this post where it talks about the money, but it does come from a user with the name Sliced Bread, so we're going to take this with a grain of salt. The number I've heard is between $25 and $30 million. That was as of the first signing day. We're nowhere near prepared to dish out that kind of money. A&M's donors were extremely coordinated. The coaching staff would identify players they wanted, relay those to the point donor, and then that individual would work with various other donors to build an LLC that would sponsor the targeted player. And if you're hoping they'll just jump in the portal after year 1, they're a step ahead there too. They structured each player's deal as a multi-year contract. Leave A&M and you leave money behind. Now again, as I mentioned, there isn't 100% accuracy to this report. This is just a rumor floating around, but I did want to talk about this. Again, the number of 25 to 30 million might not be right. It could be something along the lines of 10 to 15 million, but maybe it's something along the lines of 40 to 50 million. Either way, we don't know. But I do believe the report that boosters played a large role in a lot of these recruits coming to Texas A&M. With how NIL deals work in college football right now, there's a lot of incentive for these recruits out of high school to go to certain schools based on the offers they're getting in regards to NIL deals. We've seen many players go to schools based on that, and we've seen many players enter the transfer portal based on that as well. So now you have all these boosters at the top universities, and if they're willing to shell out millions of dollars, that's going to give them an advantage. Again, I'm not certain whether or not that's the reason Texas A&M got the highest recruiting class of all time, but it's certainly interesting considering that high number has been thrown around. There's no place where you can track how much money players are making based on different NIL deals, but it's certainly going to be interesting to see this upcoming year what kind of deals these incoming recruits have. And I think this is just the beginning. I think moving forward, we're going to be seeing some of these big-time universities that have really rich boosters that are going to be chipping in and getting recruits to come to their program. At this point, it seems like whoever has the biggest wallet is going to succeed. Now, over the last decade, Jimbo Fisher has always had one of the better recruiting classes. So this isn't just like some random coach all of a sudden having the #1 recruiting class in the country. I do get that Jimbo Fisher regularly brings in some of the best recruits in the country, but it certainly is interesting that Texas A&M had the greatest recruiting class of all time, and there's reports that up to $30 million were involved. I mean, it really is an interesting storyline to follow moving forward, because you think of some of these universities that have boosters that are billionaires or have hundreds of $1 million. How much money are they going to be willing to shed in order to get high school kids to come to their program? I mean, personally, if I was a billionaire, I'd have no problem shelling out 20, 30 million if that means my school were to get a top recruiting class. I mean, that's easy for me to say because I went to Arizona State, so obviously I would love to see the Sun Devils have a top 5 recruiting class and compete for a national championship. So I'd have no problem shelling out millions of dollars. Again, this entire report could be 100% bogus, but like I said, I do think there is some truth to this. I do think that boosters played a large role in getting some of these recruits to go to Texas A&M. I mean, if you're one of these kids and you're a top talent coming out of high school and you got a program that's already throwing millions of dollars your way, odds are you're probably going to go to that school. But I definitely think this is going to be something we see a lot in college football moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if a few years down the line, there are articles that come out that essentially rank colleges and how much money their boosters have paid. Coming in at number 1 is Texas A&M, whose boosters contributed $60 million. Coming in at number 2 is Oregon, and you can thank Phil Knight for that, as he contributed $52 million. College football is a weird and crazy time right now, and there's a lot that's going to be happening in the coming years. We'll stay on the topic of NIL deals, as Nick Saban and Kirby Smart both called for increased regulation during their Sunday morning interviews. Without more regulation, both Nick Saban and Kirby Smart said that the same teams are going to continue to dominate college football, which is ironic considering they both are the coaches of the 2 best teams in all of college football. Here's what Kirby Smart had to say. You're going to have the haves and have-nots, and the separation that is already there is going to grow larger. The schools that have the capacity and the ability and are more competitive in the NIL market are going to be schools that step ahead on top of other schools. So I don't want recruiting decisions to be based on that. But ultimately, a lot of young men want to make their decision based on that. Nick Saban said that the NIL rules were a positive thing for players and that their ability to earn money wasn't necessarily a bad thing. But he's concerned about how the NIL rules are being used to lure players to different schools. I don't think that was the intention. I don't think that would be the NCAA's intention. I think we probably need some kind of national legislation to sort of control that to some degree, because I think there will be an imbalance relative to who can dominate college football if that's not regulated in some form or fashion. Now again, this is pretty ironic considering Alabama and Georgia are 2 of the programs that are probably benefiting the most from this. The Sports Business Journal reported in December that Alabama quarterback Bryce Young had 14 separate NIL deals over the course of the 2021 season with an estimated value of more than $1 million. Nick Saban also added that he's not against players making money, but he also said that maybe there should be an agreement between both the school and the player as to what their commitment is as to what they choose to do. Nick Saban also added his thoughts on the transfer portal, saying, I don't know if you want to call it a fad or whatever, but anybody that's a little discontented with the program that they're in, just get in the transfer portal and see what my opportunities would be someplace else. I don't know if that was the intention originally. I hope it doesn't continue to be that way. Kirby Smart said the transfer portal is going to impact the way Georgia evaluates prospect during the recruiting process. It does make you think hard about the kind of kids you recruit and what their beliefs are and what their goals are and how they got here. I think a lot of what you look at when you recruit now is what is the history of the student athlete. You're trying to put a likelihood of when things get tough, because they will get tough. They will get tough in college athletics. Your time demands, practice demands, and competitive demands will get tough. How will they respond? So yeah, I did think it was interesting that Kirby Smart and Nick Saban both said there needs to be better balance in regards to NIL deals, which that's not going to happen in college football. These players are going to go wherever the money is, and likely they're going to be going to Alabama or Georgia because there's going to be a lot of chances and opportunities for more money there. But then again, I kind of understand Nick Saban and Kirby Smart having to say these things because they really can't come out and say, oh, we're all for NIL deals because we know that the top players in the country are going to come here because we have the most money to offer them. So I get both sides to the story, but I just thought their quotes were interesting. Our next topic is Jim Harbaugh, who is gaining momentum in regards to going to the NFL to be a head coach. Now, this is a very, very interesting storyline for me because it seems like there's a lot of smoke to these rumors, and if I were to bet, I think Jim Harbaugh is going to be an NFL coach next season. On Sunday, there were reports that he's calling assistants for a potential move to the NFL, and last week there was reports that he was telling recruits that he might be leaving for the NFL as well. And I've seen a lot of reports saying he's likely going to be the Raiders' next head coach. Now again, this is why I find this so interesting, because for Jim Harbaugh, Michigan has been the dream job for him. And he finally turned the corner this season and has them set up nicely for the future. I mean, seriously, this guy's been there for like nearly a decade. He finally gets them over the hump and beats Ohio State, finally gets them over the hump to the Big Ten title game and wins the Big Ten title game, and he gets them to the college football playoff. Now, granted, they got embarrassed in the college football playoff, but the job he did this season was easily his best while he's been at Michigan. So after years and years of struggling, you finally turn the corner and you're just ready to dip. Now, I don't think this is necessarily about money, because he took less money this past season so his assistants could make more. I'm sure whatever his contract in the NFL would be a little more than it would be with Michigan, but it wouldn't be significantly more. I think he's making around $7 to $8 million with Michigan. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but he wouldn't be making that much more in the NFL. So obviously it wouldn't be about money. Now, I understand that the NFL is an upgrade. He obviously succeeded in the NFL, and it would definitely be an easy decision to want to go back. But like I said, Michigan is his dream job, and they just had the best season that the program's had in decades. So why would you want to leave it? I mean, right now, Michigan seems to be turning a corner in the Big Ten, and you feel like Jim Harbaugh would want to be around for it, instead of taking a risk in the NFL and maybe not succeeding there. So who knows how much truth there is to all this. I do think Jim Harbaugh is definitely interested in the NFL, but like I said, I just can't understand why he'd want to leave Michigan when that program's turning a corner and he could be the savior if he's able to win them the college football national championship. Speaking of the national championship, we'll wrap up this video with my thoughts on the title game. The game is set for tomorrow, and I still do not have a pick on who's going to win. It's very, very tough to bet against Nick Saban and Alabama, especially in the title game, especially when they're an underdog. In my opinion, Georgia has been the best team in college football all season, and they had just that one blip in the SEC championship game. I mean, people forget up to that point, Georgia was having a historic season, especially on defense. I get that they allowed 40 points to Alabama, but essentially everything went wrong in that game, and everything went right for Alabama. Plus, it's really difficult to beat the same team twice, especially a team as good as Georgia. I don't know if I necessarily can trust Stetson Bennett against Bryce Young, but Stetson Bennett looked really damn good against Michigan, and I think there's a chance that he can build off that in this game. Plus, Bryce Young was essentially unstoppable in the SEC title game, and I think that Georgia's defense is going to be able to get to him this time around. Plus, Kirby Smart has never beaten Nick Saban, so that has to change. At least you would think. I really want to pick Bama because that seems like the smart pick, but again, if you take out that SEC title game, Georgia's been the best team all season. They looked damn good against Michigan, whereas I thought Alabama looked good against Cincinnati, but I didn't think they looked necessarily great. So if I had to give a pick right now, my pick would be Georgia. It'd be nice to see a new team win the national championship, but in all reality, Alabama's likely going to win this game. But if I had to put money on it, my money would go on Georgia. So what are your thoughts on all the topics I discussed today? Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't done so yet, now is the perfect time to smash that subscribe button and join the community here on YouTube. If you love college football, then this is definitely the place for you. Oh, and make sure to drop a like on this video as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.